lecture 5, Master has declared that he has discovered this condition which was not approached by anybody so far in the history of the human race, namely the state of Tam, which is beyond Sat or existence, which all people hold to be the highest. The state of Tam is very difficult to attain, and it has been possible only for our mission to help people reach up to this particular point or the ultimate reality. In fact, Master even goes a step further. He says, even that Tam is a kind of reflection of the ultimate reality. So, you will understand how difficult it is to communicate the very nature of that state, except by putting one into that condition. But then he says, it is a condition where there is neither light nor darkness, and all our knowledge is said to be of light. So, what is that? That is beyond light. Shall we say it is darkness? No, it goes farther beyond darkness. It is difficult to describe that condition. In fact, Master goes to the extent of saying that a person who has reached that condition will not be aware of it, except when somebody calls him back to answer a condition. That is only when what we call existence, truth, is introduced, one becomes aware of his condition. This is one discovery. Madhav, you want to say anything?
Listen, these are all practical conditions. What is?
Yeah.
My belief is that most of the people who are contemplating or getting absorbed in the subtle presence of divine light without luminosity in the heart, when their mind is absorbed or has dived into that subtle divine condition, when the mind gets absorbed in that subtle, we all have this condition. And when we have this, as a result of that condition, the impurities in our mind gradually get purified. And the more we are exposed to this condition, the more the capacity of the mind to live in that condition. I think all people who have tasted Pranahuti and then who have sincerely practiced meditation, that means resting on that subtle presence of God without any distraction, will have this condition. But this condition is Sahaja Samadhi, where we have a glimpse of that condition. I'm 100% sure. Everybody, even if after this class, if they just sit quietly and then try to get absorbed in that very subtle presence of God everywhere, we have this condition. Yes.
Right. Of course, when I had asked this condition to be given, he said that most people will not like that state at all. They do not want that state at all. Most of us like to have knowledge, like to have power, and all those things which we think as the summit of perfection. A man who goes beyond all these will not have all these things. But then he goes to the root from which all these things arose. And therefore, I said, it is worthwhile going to that condition. Anyway, so long as there is something still further mentioned there, so long as there is something still further mentioned, there are some people who like it to go to the further limits. Whether it means death or final dissolution, they do not worry. Many people do not like to go further. They would like to have what they have and not miss all these things of the world. Of course, truth comes only when we go far beyond knowledge, far beyond happiness, and perhaps even far beyond darkness. Next step, yeah.
The problem of spirituality ఇదే కదా ఆయన చెప్పింది. జనరల్ మెజారిటీ ఆఫ్ హ్యూమానిటీ మైండ్ ఈజ్ intoxicated by the world. I mean, even suffering also, they're intoxicated by suffering because the sense of self will be there. Andulo enjoyment untundi annamata. Whereas we are yoga is we have to transcend the mind, and when we transcend the mind, the intoxication which you get in joys and sufferings will not be there. So it is described as a, you may not like because you're accustomed to feelings, you're accustomed to thinking. So many people of us are accustomed to enjoy our own thinking, enjoy our own world. Prapancha, it's called. We create our own world. Like suppose I think I'm a Dr. Madhav, I'm a surgeon. I did so many difficult surgeries. So I saved so many lives. So if I think like that, there is a kind of a joy in me which is arising. And I get intoxicated by that joy. And then suppose I have to transcend the mind. That's what when the mind tries to get absorbed in the subtle reality of divine light without luminosity, this joy will go away. So, but that is the reason why spirituality is also so difficult. So nobody likes that state. But once we meet a person like Babuji and all that, when our mind is exposed to that complete stillness and I mean, extremely fine level of tranquility, an aspiration arises that's worthwhile goal to be achieved. Unless we have that taste, the world is too beautiful and too enchanting to drop it actually.
Yeah. Even in the spiritual people also, they don't like to miss that ananda. Happiness.
No, you see, in one of the letters, Babuji writes that one of the powerful obstruction is a stage comes when you feel that you are responsible for the happiness of the whole world. Then you feel that, no, I will intervene and then stop the suffering of humanity, intervene in political matters, intervene in war matters. And then that's how you miss the goal. One of the very powerful ways in which ego interferes, and you feel that the whole organization will depend on me, whole country will go to dogs unless I interfere and all that. Like that. So the subtle joy which comes, the feeling that you have done good to general humanity at large, is also is very powerful addictive thing actually.
Sir, so this is Prasad. Can you hear me?
Prasad, bolo.
So this our meditation experiences which we like state of absorption, and as we get it more frequent, that also sometimes creates some kind of obsession to be in that condition more frequently.
No, you have to now to read Babuji's works. If you read Mysore Message and all, beyond, you should not get attached to the country. You just note it, that's all. You should not even in our stage, if you are honestly practicing, what happens, there is a stage called Sahyajyata, where the experience itself merges into you. You are not even aware of that experience. And then if you are still conscious, if you have got the craving to become oneness with the goal, rest not till the goal is achieved, that will not form an obstruction. But if your vision on the summit is removed, and then if you view is not of the goal, it's very easily possible to get entangled in that spiritual bliss, which Babaji calls as avadhuta condition. So our system, if you study it properly, there's proper checks and balances are there where you're not caught in the bliss of various conditions itself.
Right, sir. Thank you.
The next step that master illustrates is about that condition. Do you think that in that condition, do you exist or don't you exist? Will you have your identity or not? Are you lost completely? It is said as one of the arguments against losing oneself in God that such a condition is of no use at all and must indeed be unreal. There are theories of Vedanta, I don't say it is Advaita, which hold that the individual soul, that is you, is immortal and is eternal. If you do not exist, God does not exist. So you must exist. That is why they say the individual soul is eternal, indestructible, and so on. That may be all right for people to say so. Actually, what happens? It is an experience not only in spirituality, but almost at every level that true love involves a dissolution of oneself, a giving up of oneself, even to the point of annihilation of identity. This we call merging. The religious people who are anxious to experience God do not like to be merged or lost in God. To them, realization means looking at God, enjoying God, worshiping Him in all sorts of ways, but not to feel one with God. That is, these people want God to live for them and not they for God. So almost all religions want God for the sake of the individual. Nobody is thinking of living to exist for God. So many people want to have their identity kept up. And we find their identity is tried to be fostered by names, works, and so on. And those remnants as the delegates of such people. They are trying to give immortality to the works of those people. So to that extent, we create a kind of immortality to their identity.
He has beautifully addressed this problem, which is a common problem in majority of the people. And then that is what makes spirituality at once so difficult, because everybody wants that his identity should not be lost.
Right.
And, that is why religion is so popular. Yeah. That is why yoga also, Babaji, when you read his words very clearly, he says yoga means basically it is layavastha unless you're absorbed. Yoga means oneness. You have to become one. You have to become associate of God, not a follower or a devotee. Where devotion is easy, and it was a common refrain of Sir that India suffered because of devotion and because yoga was forgotten. Devotion is easy because devotion duality is maintained. Whereas yoga is very difficult because you have to take responsibility, you have to become one. So that is one of the reasons why yoga became weak in our country. And now, since Babaji has come and has given you direct experience of that infinite, your infinite nature, that will probably trigger a love in your heart for the infinite itself. So he has made yoga possible for common people also. Otherwise, people want to enjoy God, but they don't want to work like gods, like masters.
Yeah, they don't like to live in God and to live for God.
They want God should work for them.
for them. Yeah.
Want God to satisfy all their desires. I want to become the savior of the world. God should help me in saving my country or my caste or whatever it is. And then I should get name and fame. God should help me in getting name and fame. All those things. I mean, it could be a million ways by which you want God to serve you.
Right. It is only a philosophical feeling that you must have been previously. There are arguments for that. But ultimately, do you exist as a separate entity, keeping your own identity till the very end? Our master says, the identity which each individual has continues to be even till the last date of Mahapralaya. Some people said, even at Mahapralaya, a person goes on existing. That is a philosophical necessity. Even when a man enters into the state of Tam, he continues to have a little of identity till the very last, when everybody goes to the center, which is the Tam. And everybody at that stage enters into it. And after that period of Mahapralaya, they come back again. The question is whether they themselves come back again. Can we believe that Markandeya comes back after every Mahapralaya? Most probably we must accept it. But then it is not clear whether it is a problem for experience or for imagination.
Idi pedda problem. It's a huge problem in philosophy.
Yes.
That is why, in that way, we have to appreciate Buddhism, because he never entertained these questions. He says whether you will live after death, he didn't answer. Whether you will die after death, you neither live, you neither not live. I mean, it's very difficult to answer these questions. He himself is raising those philosophical issues here.
Yes.
Better is we should, common sense viewpoint is whether your mind is under your control or not, whether you are able to naturally be feeling the presence of, you see, in all of us now, if we just be in a prayerful mood, we can feel his presence. So that is under our control. And if we lose our grip on divinity, our ego takes over and will psychologically separate. Really, you cannot separate from God, but psychologically we can create separation by allowing our ego to, if you're careless, if you don't practice constant remembrance, it is very easily possible for you to be psychologically disconnected from God. Real disconnection does not occur actually. So that is within our scope. So the more we practice, we train our mind to stay in the peaceful presence of the master. I think that should be the practical way to go forward. And what will happen in future, what will be the experiences in future, whatever experiences come, let them come. But we cannot imagine what it will be in future. We can just live in the present, enjoy the peace which comes when you feel his presence. That's all. That's my practical philosophy I follow.
Right. So even logically also, once you merge into nothingness, how can you come back? You have become nothingness.
Ante
Your identity cannot come back again.
Atla kaadu. Like Babuji is there, and then Buddha was there. They are all living. It's a realization is not an ontological reality as such. That means it is not a thing which is existing outside, and it is not like a heaven where you go and stay there. It's just a mere realization in your mind. That's all. I mean, it's not a ontological reality, but it is an awareness which unfolds in your mind, which makes you feel extremely a sense of freedom and all that. So there, another common way for all the people who are listening in this thing, who are practicing sincerely and then who are writing their diaries, one way to know whether you're meditation is going on correctly or not is how much you are, how much mind wandering is taking place, how much you think about it, you keep on, mind wandering happens. But if you are practicing correctly, the mind wandering and mind fabrication comes to an end. And you'll be very, very peaceful within yourselves. I mean, peace will continuously be present with you. I mean, it's not dependent on external factors. Whereas that means the vritti of imagination drops completely. If a person is correctly practicing Babaji's method, the imaginative vritti comes down, and 99% of the thoughts are imaginative in nature. So that is one way by which everybody can assess themselves, how much of his mind is, fabricating thoughts. Like suppose I have a patient, and then I'll be, what will happen, what will I meet, what will be the condition. You may think as a problem, but then mind has got a tendency to keep on creating stories, and ultimately you'll think the whole universe exists in your mind. So that kind of wandering drops. There'll be very few thoughts actually. So that way you can assess yourself.
Right. The Upanishad is very clear in this matter. The very same problem is stated in Kathopanishad. Nachiketa asks Yama, what happens to me after I get realization, whether I exist or not? It is very difficult, Yama said. Do not ask me that question. But he insisted upon the answer. Yama replied, well, you will come to a stage where you are so much one with that your distinction from it is very little. When you come out of it, a distinction comes out. That I is the existence. The I or identity is that from which thought arises. Individual thought arises from the I. Now it is a very difficult question. It is a very difficult question to explain unless you go through that experience. Master says there is an element of man running parallel to the divine. And the man who realizes the thumb is one with the thumb. He almost identifies with the thumb. The human element or identity remains to the minimum extent, and it will remain till the very last. That is Mahapralaya. The realization is that if you want to have realization here with the body, then you must have a minimum of identity and a maximum of the divine. That is what we are seeing in the master. In other words, it is precisely 0 added before I.
Before one.
And the number.
Before I or one, yes.
Yeah. In other words, it is precisely 0 added before I. And the number added after the decimal point, which makes your identity less, nearing absolute 0. This can be experienced in the lives of people. I can only represent this point by referring the master himself. This condition can be said to be pure thought with that slight point. And all his actions come from that thumb through the infinite smell. It becomes the passage through which the individualization takes place. In other words, Master says individuality is brought to the minimum. What is lost is individual and not divine.
I think this is a very practical way of clearing all the intellectual doubts which people have about this subject, which is pretty much most people who use their mind will have all these doubts.
Yes. So he has clearly said what is lost is individual and not divine. So you have to negate yourself and the divine expresses. Master feels there is a great mystery, a mystery which is beyond all spirituality also. And if you want to experience, just try by adding a little bit of what you call truth or existence. Then you will see whether he exists or not. The person who reaches thumb is more real than you. A man who thinks he exists perhaps does not exist really. That is a condition indistinguishable from non-existence. Existence and non-existence are transcended in this condition. In other words, all our normal ways of describing this condition do not go far, and we are left to experiment on this aspect.
I was reading Dakshamurti garu, an account in one of the literature, like suppose in the medieval times, 15th or 16th century, people believed that the earth was flat, and when they were seeing the sea, they thought that, after Copernicus came, the idea that the earth is round was inferred actually. And suppose if those people, those days when they thought that the earth was flat, when they were seeing a ship traveling, suppose you go to Marina Beach and you see a ship traveling up, or Vizag, after some time the ship goes beyond the horizon. A person may think that what will happen to that ship? Has it fallen into void? How long it will take to fall into the void? What will happen to the sailors and all? What will happen to their hunger? All those questions would have come to him. He believed that that is jumped off the edge and then fallen into a void actually. So suppose that person is taken in a spaceship and then taken above, then he will see that the world is, the globe is, the earth is round and the ship is traveling around. So all the questions, whether the ship has fallen out and what will happen to all those questions simply dissolve. So in a similar fashion, when a person becomes one, realizes the understanding in his mind that he's not separate from God and there's no individuality left in him. When that realization dawns, all these questions will simply drop. They will not exist.
Right.
Go ahead, sir.
Do not have a fear that your identity is going to be completely lost if you have any love for identity. Some people will say, and in fact, the great distress of Buddha was, as everybody tells, that he was a nihilist. He said, the human individual is a bundle of samskaras. And so everybody said he was a Shunyavadin. And that is how they follow him. What he means was that ultimate cannot be described in the language of real experience. And it is something to be experienced by jhana, as he himself said. And jhana means what? Try to understand the original cause. If not, go on asking what is the cause. You come to the final point of the I. Can you then stop there? No. You have to go still further, beyond the cause. So you see, at that point, are you to say that you are born out of nothing? All that you can say is yes and no. It is very difficult. So the divine is completely different from the human, and there is no graduated process. So Buddha was misunderstood because the people who argued for him were intellectual, not those really experienced and lived for that. With a bit of the divine, they expanded their individual and called themselves God or superhuman. But he who is fully merged in and gives more importance to the thumb creates a new kind of personality. That is a very great point which Master has stated. That is why, to understand fully the magnificence and attractiveness of the thumb, one has to put aside all the prejudices about the nature of identity. You must realize that Sat, there is something greater than the identity.
Actually, he has brilliantly solved all problems
Right.
of philosophy, actually.
Yeah. So he very clearly says, but he who is fully merged in the thumb and gives more importance to that thumb creates a new kind of personality. That's it.
We all have these conditions. The only thing is, like Babaji says, the role of a preceptor is to mold, and I mean the Abhyasi has to becoming role of the. He will give suggestions and takes you to a stage, but training your mind to become that stage is the responsibility of the Abhyasi. So all of us have been, potential conditions have been seeded into our heart. We have to train our mind so that the mind gets transformed to take up the shape which was been instilled into us by the master. So in that type of practice, there is a lot of improvement is needed, and a lot of scope is there for improvement. So Dharmesh, can anybody tell you what do you mean by harmony of the faculties? He says, what is morality? Morality is when all the faculties come into harmony.
Our thoughts and actions should not disturb the universal balance.
What do you understand by faculties?
Faculties means our mind and buddhi and all those actions and thoughts that should not cause any disturbance in the universal balance.
I want you to define what is a faculty.
Okay.
When Babaji is using the word faculty, what is his idea about the word faculty? I want you to answer that. All the faculties, he says all, that means not one or two.
All the faculties, yeah. That is from the method of training.
If you would have said all thoughts and actions, you would have used that word, no? But he has used all the faculties. So in your diary, you have to contemplate. First, you should know what are all the faculties. Ravi, Chappande.
Yeah, Manaschet, Buddha and Ahankar, those are the things which are being referred as faculties here. So harmony in the sense like probably when we think that, okay, the four faculties, Buddhi is basically the intellect, and the chit, the deeper cognition or the storehouse, and like ahankar is ego. So
I agree with you. That means faculties is buddhi.
yeah.
Can I add?
Bolo Bishnoi sir.
Sir, how do we get inputs to ourselves is through our senses, the 5 senses that we have. When these senses, they give input to the mind, so to say, sir. Now, firstly, suppose if we cut out all the senses, just
Cut
close
off
your eyes means you are not seeing.
Cut off means okay.
I just close my eyes.
So you cannot live in this world.
No, I'm just saying, sir, that when we say the faculties,
No, there's a difference between senses and faculties.
no, I'll come, sir. I'll come to that.
Yeah.
One is our mind says something, and because it has got inputs from various senses, it
Okay.
says something.
Okay.
So one is mind, sir. Another is the heart. Heart says something else. If something is immoral, the heart immediately gives a mind may be analyzing anything because my eyes have seen something, and there is something immoral as a thought it rises, but just before that, a heart will give one impulse.
1 minute. Just I want further clarity on what you're saying. You're saying heart and you're saying mind.
Mind.
Okay. What is the difference between these two?
No, heart, like we always say, sir, heart is to do with feelings, and mind is to do with the thoughts, so to say.
No, that's okay. Can you just clarify, enumerate the faculties which Babuji is talking of? And then we'll use we are using English language or Hindu, our Indian languages. Heart is different and Manasu is different. So let us be on the same page when you're using the language. So now we are bringing English language and we are alag ho gaya na? So all of us should be thinking similarly. No? When you say heart, when you say mind, what is the difference between these two?
No, firstly, we are very clear that heart de facto has no gray matter, sir. So nothing. It is not producing thoughts or something, sir.
No, but
Heart is a more of a divine abode for the divine or something.
no. But if you see efficacy of Raja, the entire thing he talks, the heart is controlling everything. Whatever you are thinking is controlled by the heart. 1 minute. All these thoughts are due to the heart, and subsequently all your actions will be governed and regulated by this thing only at the first step. Wrongly, if unwisely directed, correctly if properly directed. It means that it is a master of them all. It is a controlling agency in itself. This is the condition of your heart within. It is working in different. So Babuji is using these words. How will you reconcile our understanding?
No, I am very sure, sir, that the science has not reached there till now.
No, it is. How do you say? I mean, I have read so many reports now, which is they're totally the idea of Babuji's thinking only now. The whole neuroscience and everything is thinking like Babuji only.
Very right.
I'm not cross-examining. I want clarity should emerge in our discussion. No. Boliye, keep trying. I mean, let's.
Is it Karmendriya? Karmendriya and
Ravi has clearly said the faculties are 4 in number. One is buddhi or the intellect. The other is manasu, or the English word for manasu is the mind. The third is chitta. Chitta is a repository of all your memories. Okay. And the fourth is ahankara. These are all the faculties when Babuji uses the word faculties. So then the sense organs are the motor organs, and sense organs interact with the manasu. They give input and the manasu decides what action to. If I see a jalebi, the mind will say, go and grab it and eat it. So mind actually binds all the information coming from all the sense organs, and then it makes a narrative, and then based on that narrative, it will decide instantaneously. The chitta also will interact with the mind, the buddhi also interacts with the mind, and then it decides to grab that jalebi, or suppose it says it is bad for your sugar, it will not grab it. So the mind is the controlling agent. So that's the thing. Okay. So how do you see harmony?
Harmony, actually, sir, in this aspect, like when all these four faculties they get purified to the action. That means basically, in simple terms, చెప్పాలంటే ఇంకా మనకి the storehouse of the past memories are all what the chitta. When they get rarefied, and we do not tend to accumulate, or we do not tend to get the effect of we are rather, in a simple terms, we will tend to understand, okay, this they're doing this thing by following the input by karmendriya, I'm going to add more sanskara, so let me not do it. So that kind of a
Ravi, you're talking rightly. I will just try to further refine what you're trying to say. When you're saying chitta has to be in harmony, you can. So first of all, you have to think of purifying these faculties. So when they are purified, then they will work in harmony. You can, now Vishnu is there, I can use a military analogy. Suppose an enemy is there, and then you have infantry, you got cavalry, you got gunship, and you got air force. All of them will act together, then our job is done. Suppose if they're not in harmony, suppose infantry has moved and the gunner has bombed, it will fall on his own men. So it's not working in harmony. All of them have to be focused on the goal to achieve the objective. In a way, we have these four faculties. First of all, we have to first see that they are in a healthy state. Healthy state means they should be purified. Babaji uses this word, you have to purify your faculties. So chitta, when you say it is purified, the chitta purification is done by two things. One is Abhyasi himself. He will not add further samskaras by continuously thinking that whatever action he is doing, the master inside him is doing that action, or he is doing for the sake of the master. Like you are doing a software program. If you do that program, you will get some salary. With that salary, you look after your wife and your father and brother, whatever. So this is the by providing food and security to my family, I am doing this service for the sake of my master. So if you take that attitude, that will not form samskara. That is your role. The trainer, what he does by his cleaning, he removes the past impressions which are there. So you are, like suppose I am at Ravi, and then there is a fight between you and me some 10 years ago. That memory of anger is there. That anger, he will remove it. You may remember, but the psychological feeling of anger will not be there if the cleaning has been done properly. So all prejudices will not be there. Your judgment is every moment, whenever you're thinking, we are judging always. And the judging is because based on your assumptions and perceptions. So if the trainer does the work properly, he will remove all these prejudices and wrong assumptions. So then you can say that your chitta is purified. Then what coming to buddhi? Buddhi, when it is purified, it will see things very clearly. It will only see the master in everybody, the sixth commandment, and he will feel the presence of master everywhere. Wrong view will go away. Wrong view that I am separate from you is going away. Everything is interconnected. It is a series of dependent processes. I am talking to you, you are talking to me. Object and subject are interrelated. They are not separate. So everything is interconnected in this world. So that interconnection is felt. And if that is felt, that is called a clear view of the reality actually. Otherwise, most of our view is not a clarified view. seeing through jaundiced glasses. We feel this fellow is Indian, this fellow is a Muslim, this fellow is this thing. That is all wrong views. When a buddhi is clarified, only real view will, correct view only will come to you. What Babaji uses the word called right cognition. When you want to develop spiritually, you have to develop right cognition. That is the meaning when your buddhi is purified. Third thing comes the heart or the mind. When the heart is purified, there will be no ill will there. You will be just liking everybody, irrespective whether that fellow likes you or not. You will be spontaneously, hatred goes away. And your mind will have, you'll not see any enemies. You may, as a military man, do a duty to kill an enemy, but you'll have no hatred personal. You will not take it personally. It is as a duty you'll be doing. Just like Arjuna he has killed Bhishma or Dronacharya and all that as a duty he has done, not out of hatred. He loved them actually. So that is a purification of the mind. And Ahankara purification is, you will have Ahankara is nothing but a powerful feeling that you are separate from God. So there you will have that you will have a feeling that you are a servant of God, but that feeling will be very, 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 very subtle and very light. Because if that feeling totally goes, you cannot exist in this world. So some degree of ego will be there so that you can carry on the work of God as an instrument. So if these faculties are purified, it will be like that. So if we are meditating on the subtle presence of God, which is divine light without luminosity, which is neither light nor darkness, it is just like a base from where you are going to the possessor of those conditions. Then your mind also, when it is merged in that God, then as a result of that mergence, all these faculties become purified. And when these faculties become purified, then you can say that your true morality arises. That is the idea when, that is the idea which I am having about, if I would like to write what I should write in my diary, this is my thinking. You may all have different thoughts based on your practice and experiences. We are moving in the direction, you see, because intellectually we'll have this understanding, but the mind to get molded to that reality is a practice actually. That practice can improve only if you do constant remembrance. Suppose you relax your grip, if you are not mindful of the presence of God, then the outside forces will drag you away from your goal actually. So that is the practice which we have to do like that. Vishnu sir, kuch
clear?
Huh?
Clear, sir.
A lot of effort is required in this way. It is not, it can't be purchased in a market. It just does not come by listening to some talk or Zoom meeting and all that. It's a hard work actually has to be done. Anything else? Something is there in the chart. What is it?
Brother Raghavan has written.
What is it? Right? My mouse is not working.
Balancing of senses mean complete loss of doership, utilization of those faculties to an extent required and as naturally ordained. This way, senses are able to allow us for receiving His grace.
I don't know, the senses are the problem because the senses give you a feeling that senses makes me realize there's a space between me and Dharmesh, space between me and Vishnu. That space gives me a feeling that multiplicity, I am different from Vishnu and all that. And the senses actually, if you see our tradition, it is vilified very strongly, and they are the cause for the mind being driven away from God actually, because that is why when you meditate and then you feel that God is present everywhere, and when your mind gets absorbed in God, the object also becomes part of God. And since God is is the cause for your heart to beat and your mind is resting on God, your mind unites itself with God, and then the whole world becomes part of your subject. And then when it becomes a subject, the object disappears. Then the sense organs will not interfere. Otherwise, sense organs are the main culprits which create suffering actually. Like for example, I will read one, Bishnoi Sahab, Kabir ka ek padhta hu. He talks about how sense organs create havoc within us. It says, Hirna samaj booj ban charna. That he talks about Hirna means the soul. He is using the metaphor like a hiran or antelope. Ek ban charna, duje ban charna, tije ban pad nahi dharna. Tije ban mein, in the third forest, mein panch pardi, unke nazar nahi padna. In the third forest, there are 5 sense organs. Don't go near them. 5 hirna, 25 hirni, unme ek chaturana. Toye maar tere mask bikhave, tere khal ka karenge bichona. That means they'll tear you into pieces, the sense organs. Tear you into, the soul will be torn into pieces by the sense organs. Kahe Kabira suno bhai sadho, guru ke charan chit dharna. He says, oh antelope, graze in the forest thoughtfully and carefully. Forest is the sense organs, objects. That includes all name and fame, thoughts and physical objects, everything included in objects. You may gaze in one forest, maybe in another, but do not step into the third forest. In the third forest, there are 5 hunters. Do not come into their view. 5 hunters are these 5 sense organs. There are 5 antelopes and 25 she antelopes. Out of them, one is very clever. They will kill you, shall sell your flesh, and the ego is the one which kills you. Sell your flesh and make a seat out of your hide. Kabir says, listen, O sages, meditate upon the feet of the Guru in your heart. Myself and Dakshinamurti were, when we were in the hospital, we were discussing about the Shankaracharya's idea about, sir, mera chappan sir, he talks about 5 animals which die because of 5 different sense organs. Like deer, you know, deer dies because of sound. The hunter plays a music, and deer, you know, is enchanted by the music, and then it stands still and the hunter kills it. So the sound has killed the deer. And then air. The elephant is when it is in a must and when it is in a sexual period, and it becomes very mad. So what the hunter does he digs a big pit and covers it with grass and puts a plastic elephant there on top of it. The elephant madly rushes to have sex with that elephant and falls into the pit and dies. That is one. The third is the moth, that means the flame. I mean, it burns itself on the flame. I mean, the firefly and the fly, which gets, you see all that in the rain, we see these things, they get burnt in the flame. Fire attracts and kills. Then the fish, you know, it is attracted by the taste. It goes for the bait and the iron hook hits and it gets killed. And finally, the smell, the bird goes into the pitcher plant by the smell, and then it is get trapped by the honey trap. So all these 5 beings are dead because of the sense organs. And he says human being has got all the 5 sense organs, and then you imagine what sorts of trouble he is in, how much more careful he should be. So that's the very famous of Shankaracharya, he talks in this Viveka Chudamani. So sense organs are extremely powerful in derailing your spiritual enterprise actually. And if you read Babuji's 73 message, he says your remembrance of the divine should be such that a stage comes when the God remembers you. And when that comes, then he says your senses are summarized. And when the senses summarize, you're immediately established in the Brahmanda consciousness. The world becomes a dream actually. It's no more existing for you. You're in a blissful stage. I mean, you are completely cut off from misery. And misery cannot touch you at that stage. Sir, Miriam Chappan, sir, only I am the people should contribute to the discussion, which will help.
మ్యూట్ లో ఉన్నారండి.
ఏంటండి
దక్షిణామూర్తి గారు మ్యూట్ లో ఉన్నారు.
ఆయనకి ఇంకోటి ఏదో ఉంది కదా సార్, దే టాక్ అబౌట్ 24 టీచర్స్ ఏదో ఉంది కదా, అంటే పర్సన్ లెర్న్స్ ఫ్రమ్ ఆల్ ది things in the universe, like from a snake or from a bee or whatever creatures.
Yes.
They are your gurus. They are called our gurus. There's a story on I read it long back.
Yeah, I also read it long back. That is also from I think Shankaracharya only. I can't remember right now, but that story is there. Yeah,
talks about the tortoise as my guru. I mean, all the creatures are actually your gurus. They teach something other in your life. I should do some research and come up with these stories because they may be helpful.
Yes, so surely will do.
Actually, these are taught in the Amar Chitrakatha. Stories are told to these children about how by observing nature we learn, like the industriousness of the ants, like that, or so many things. Like probably the foolishness of the monkey, which how monkey is trapped by the hunter. It puts its hand into the empty shell of a coconut. So we also catch hold of our possessions, that the things belong to me, and then we don't leave it, and we feel that the world is trapped you. But actually, if you just lose your hands, and then you can come out of the trap. You can easily get out of the trap of the so-called world.
There's an interesting example, sir, about a Vidyarthi. They say how a student should be like. जो बच्चे पढ़ रहे होते हैं और students are there. So there's a very nice saying about these animals.
अच्छा वही बोलो.
काक चेष्टा बको ध्यानम. काक मतलब जो कौवा होता है वो चेष्टा करता रहता है. It keep trying and trying. Suppose you're sitting with some food or something, it will keep coming close and close. Even if you show it away, it keeps coming to you, sir.
Okay.
That is the cheshta, the student. Bako dhyanam. Bako is bagula. Jo ek pair pe chupchap for minutes and hours, he'll keep standing silent till the fish comes close.
Crane, no? The crane, it tries to,
Yeah, then it is in that dhyan. As soon as it comes, it will just take it. Otherwise, it will not move.
Yeah, that's right.
चेष्टा बकोधन श्वान निद्रा तथैव च. श्वान इज जो विद्यार्थी की नींद कुत्ते जैसी होनी चाहिए. थोड़ा सा कुछ होता ही he shouldn't sleep like a sloth.
अच्छा. Good.
Be very मतलब he shouldn't sleep much. And
okay.
Then ग्रह त्यागी अल्पाहारी. He should eat less और घर को त्याग कर देना चाहिए. उसको means घर में टीवी चल रहा है, कुछ और हो रहा है. He should just be in his studies.
Totally applicable to me, actually.
These are the 5 things he has said about a student, how a student should be.
Okay.
And it is equally applicable to all of us as students.
Yeah, that's it. Okay.
Anyone wants to add?
Balancing of complete loss of doership, utilization of those faculty and extent required naturally ordained. This way, senses are able to allow us for receiving it. Senses will not allow you. Actually, senses will teach you if you take the correct lessons. We keep repeating the same mistake again and again and again and again. Actually, if you truly observe the natural phenomena, like suppose you eat a jalebi, you know it is what it is. It is tasted sweet, and you know what is the taste of sweet, and then your desire is satisfied. next time you should not have unless you have, but then you continuously want to taste it day after day, day after day. That means you're not taught, you're not learned the lesson which senses has taught you. So it is trying to teach you a lesson that the world will not give you happiness, because if you tasted a jalebi and you feel you should be happy, you should not repeat it again. But then you are continuously trying to repeat, even though senses is telling that it will not give you true happiness. Temporary relief of some weight being taken off from your mind, or from your weight being taken off from your head, or whatever it is. It's a temporary thing, but we don't learn what senses are teaching us actually. I mean, whatever pleasure which we get from sense organs, whatever fame which we get from getting praised and all that, they are temporary. Like today I may be praised as a good surgeon, tomorrow somebody says he's a horrible surgeon, he has killed so many people, like that. Praise and blame are two sides of the same thing, but then we don't learn the lesson. Senses will give you, if you properly try to put a question, what is this episode or this experience teaching me, then that will help you develop viveka, and viveka will help you to move towards God actually. So what Raghavan has written, it paves your way to viveka actually, and viveka helps you to move towards devotion, and that's all.
Anything else?
So we'll meet next week then.
We'll meet next week. Yeah.